We can start. First of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here also today. Today the session will be led by Daniela. I would like to remind you just a few organizational things. As always, please write in the chat your name, surname, and organization. Keep your microphones muted while you're not speaking. And I think that I can leave the floor to Daniela. And then if we all agree to work together using rooms, I will be creating the rooms to involve you in them. So Daniela, if you want, I think that I can stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning to all. We are at the third module of this training for territorial mediators. My name is Daniela Campora. I'm one of the person in charge for your training. I think we could make this an engaging experience to work together. Yes, it's a pity that we are not in presence, and I think this is quite difficult for Mediterranean people. At least this is true for me, because usually in my I need contact interaction, and then moreover we have to talk in English. It was so good to talk in Italian with Mariana before, but we try to do our best communicating in the most, I always use this word, convivial terms. So I ask for your cooperation, and okay, maybe it's a good idea to tell you who I am and why I'm here. I studied tourism economics and communication, but I've been working and training in tourism industry for many years. So for the last 15 years, I worked in the sustainable and responsible tourism sector, above all, with a special interest in territory. I consider myself a territorialist. Do you understand me? I speak too fast, too slow? Give me a sign.
It's okay.
It's okay. Thumb. Okay. If there is some problem, write in the chat. Okay. Yes, my experience with Borghi. I've been previously involved by Borghi Autentici in training projects about the hospitable community. You have talked about this last week, and about hospitality. And I been involved with the local communities in some Italian regions, such as Piedmont, where I currently live in the north of Italy, Umbria, where I had studied at university, tourism at the university, and also Sardinia, where I've been working for many years in the hospitality industry as a manager. At the moment, I'm the president of a little nonprofit association that organized tourist experiences in a national park in Italy. It's in Campania, the Cilento area, a very beautiful place. And I'm also in the board of the Italian Association for Responsible Tourism, and in the this year in the coordination committee of East Europe. East Europe could be interesting for you because it's a worldwide organization dealing with social tourism. In ISTO, I work, I'm in the working teams for domestic tourism and social policy. There are other working teams about youth tourism and also accessibility. It's a real interesting organization. So that's about me. What about you? What we expect that you could learn in this module. Maybe we can start with the slide. May I share the screen, Simone, or you have to do it? Yes.
Just.
You have to. Okay.
I have to check the settings. Okay, I think you can share the presentation.
Okay. Here we are. Okay. Okay, so start with, I can see you, you have to put it, okay. Okay, I start with this word because it's the most important word in our matter, not only in tourism, but also in the life of villages. So what we are here in our training. The title of the module is Knowing the Territory in order to be able to storytell it and to facilitate its valorization. These are the main arguments. So the natural, human, cultural, and productive landscape as a mix of interventions aimed at sustainability, protection of biodiversity, fight against climate change, and also enhance the value of communities and local areas. What we need to ask ourselves is, who do this for whom we had to do this? This is important for residents, for tourists that we call in by temporary residents, also for new residents, including the person who want to return to live in small areas. Maybe those people that have left and decided to return. And obviously for yourself to be prepared to go on the territories. It's not an easy job, I can say. Then next meeting we talk about design of the itineraries and routes for the territory, local monuments, culture, craft, accommodation, and catering. Okay. What I want to say about this concept, the central concept of the module. I want to underline that why do we need to know the territory? It's in the title of the module. If you do not know something, you're not able to build a story about it and to valorize it. But we have also to consider our situation that's very particular because the pandemic has hit our lives very hard and we are in a difficult moment. But it's the suggestion is to consider the elements we had to face in this moment. You see these words, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. They call this model the VUCA, no? From the initials, because of course we are in a situation where there's change everywhere. There is volatility, a change in the dynamics of the relation, a different rhythm of our lives. So that gives us as effect instability. And that's what you probably find on the territory where you are going to work. But this kind of element needs as a requirements, we need the vision. So we need to explore ideas, we need to act, we need to arrive on the territory with the knowledge that you are building now. Then uncertainty, it's a situation that we can, that's predictably, we don't know which would be our life after these, and we don't know when is this after. We have also about the pandemic, we have information overload. So what we need is understanding. That means that on the territory, you need to broaden your comprehension of the place, and in particular, to take in consideration the different perspective you could find. So talk about the territory with very different people to help you broaden your understanding. Of course, it's a moment of great complexity. We have, every one of us has many things to do, all connected, but there's always the uncertainty. So maybe we have a lack of productivity because it's difficult to see clear. So we need much more focus, much more flexibility. Then ambiguity, why? Because it's easy to have incorrect interpretation of the situation. And that's easy to find on the territory. You could have take wrong decision in this moment, or not understand the right process. So it's necessary to be agile, to take decision, and always to use innovation, to be in the condition to try to be in the condition to propose something new. So I wrote these keywords to summarize the value of the territory, to build the connection, the relation between people, that is to create the us, we. Community is a word that has many rhetoric aspects in it. It's a word we always think it's an ideal word, okay? Love community, all together, all happily, but it's not like this. You have to build around the community, the relation. And that could be your story on the territory. This could is the difference between a successful project or a project that it's not successful. Okay. So the areas in which the pandemic has had much influence, these are peripheries, midland, the land in between, mountainous and hilly areas, so the little areas, disadvantaged areas, small villages. The pandemic has hit each of these areas, but we could learn a lesson from these, because to avoid further catastrophes, it is from these places that we could start to build a resilient and equitable, habitable territory. But we can say the good news is that how the pandemic acted in non-urban areas. Really, the lockdown has enhanced the demand for a higher quality of life. So there is evidence of quality of life in places with lower social density. So there are new subjectivity on the scene of small villages and new communitarian forms developing. We would talk about this later, but you already have information about this in the last week. Of course, in small villages, in small places in this period, there was also a sense of abandonment, because there has not been in Italy, for example, post-COVID strong investment policies in marginal areas. But what's interesting is that although the territory is seriously ill, there is a new change, as Maurizio Capelli told last week. We do not have data from the tourism sector, but there is a return to the small villages. It is true that we do not have data from the tourism sector, but we have some data from the real estate sector, because people is going to buy much more houses in the villages than in the big cities. And this is a positive information for our work. So, dictionary, what we always use the word territory. So why it is seriously ill? The territory is the outcome of a co-evolutionary process produced by interaction between people, to make it easy, people and place. So settled communities with the environment. But the machinery civilization and the urbanization have broken this process. So we had to think about landscape. The definition of the European Landscape Convention is that landscape is an area as perceived by people, and that's really an important issue. And the character of this area is the result of action and interaction of natural and human factors. This is what they say. And I remember last time when we talk about could we have a plan for 2 or more villages? This is a practical issue. I think that one of the possible answers is do these places have the same character? Because the landscape, as the European landscape says, has a personal distinct character. And they also say every landscape in Europe is unique. I think this is very interesting. Okay. So if any landscape is unique, this is the key. But we know that our landscape, our territory, our place, our village is unique. Which are the elements that could make it unique? Why is this important, so important? Because we have to tell a story. And if the story is not unique, people is not really interested. When we would talk about storytelling, when the story of someone or of a place could be of interest for the audience. It could be of interest for the audience when it is a unique story, but it has also a universal sense. Why I write this? This is one of the films about tourism that I prefer. And it's the story of a bus tour in Europe, 9 nations in 18 days. And so, of course, it's a funny film, it's a comedy, it's an old one, it's 1969 or something like this. And the title is, If It's Tuesday, It Must Be Belgian. And this title comes from a scene in the film when all the group, of course, they are Americans, all the group is on the bus tour and they are traveling in a lonely road. There is fog, everything is very gray. And someone asked, where are we? And another one says, oh, I don't know, really, I don't know. Okay, what day is today? And the other answer, it's Tuesday. So if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium. So the idea is that when you do not personalize, do not create something unique, everything is not interesting, is not, of course, emotional. And this happens much more often than you can imagine. For example, when I read Still Love Me, huh? Although I said this thing. But when I read the description of your places, some kind of events seems quite similar. Food, of course. What kind of food? So that's not a problem when we are reading a SWOT analysis or a description of a place. But it's a big problem when you have to communicate to an audience that you would the audience to find that your place is interesting, to have them visit or to stay happy in this place. So it's a good idea to always audit the territory for something special. You see, sometimes when we write this kind of thing, we think, okay, it's obvious. Oh, it's so simple, of course. I don't go there if I do not find something special. But so much time in the communication, you don't find this unique thing. Many years ago in the marketing, we call it the unique selling proposition. It's an old way of thinking, okay? But because when you say unique, you usually connect this to one, no? And this was the meaning of the unique selling proposition. Today, we had to think about a core. The product is a core of services to offer to the people. I call these practical tips along the way, because I try to give you some advice, or serious and funny at the same time, to keep your attention alive, and to insert some, I hope so, engaging activities. For example, this one, we would try to do this on the Jamboard. You know Jamboard? I don't know. Someone knows Jamboard? Okay, so it's a whiteboard, we could say, where you could interact with some slides, for example. I choose this one to start in a very easy way. It's quite a test. So what is this that you are looking? Oh, I haven't taken the book with me. Okay. This is one of the, I think it's the first territorial marketing book, and it's from Kotler, the guru of the marketing. And it's a very old text, but not to buy, but to find information about on the web, I think, okay? Because it was quite a visionary text, full of histories and cases and so on. Why Kotler wrote this text? Because American places were in crisis. They don't know how to attract investment, tourism, industry. It's not that they do not know how, but in attracting investment, they spend a lot of money. And maybe the industry or the investments or the tourism arrives. Then after 2 years, the industry choose another town, and they had spent a lot of money not to have a return on the place. So this is a perceived image map. Those words you find, it helps you really with the audience stereotypes, because we have to consider the stereotypes when we have to build the image of a place. Also about the village. Maybe when you have your SWOT analysis, you could have a list of places, monuments, practical things you could find in the place. It's much more difficult to understand what's the perceived image of the community first. It's not so easy. You have to talk about with a lot of people to understand this. And also the perceived image of the tourist, of the people who visit, of the people who would like to return or to go to live in the territory. So It's a Likert scale, very simple. And this was about, if I remember, they used this about New Orleans. So for example, New Orleans, it was 7 as a sinful town. The scale is built on the contraries, on the opposites. So much more easy to say it's a friendly town or it's a cold, which is the perception of the people who lived in and of the people who could visit the place. I would like to know what you think about this, but really, in some occasions, it helps me a lot to understand in 5 minutes what people think about the territory. It's easy to say, oh, that's a joke. Would you please tell me what you think about this? And then you have to control the audience, because it starts a discussion. Oh no, it's not ugly. Our place is so pretty, you know, it's easy. So although this was built on a town, I would like to do this job, if we could try, to build on a place. So what I would like you to do is to suggest adjectives in opposition between them that could apply to a small village. So maybe you could use all of these, but it's quite different what you find in a little place, in a little village. Of course, it's romantic, boring, it's friendly, it's cold. I would like you to try to do this and to do all together this kind of work. I would like to introduce you to the Jamboard. Okay. So Simone, if you would like to send the links.
Okay. I'll copy paste in the chat a link to the Jamboard, which should be accessible to everyone. So please click on the link, and then we will see if you can access to the Jamboard.
Wow. So the Jamboards give you names, animals' name. I saw them in Italian. I'm sorry I couldn't see them in your language, so I would like to know how penguin is in our Mediterranean language. Oh. Hippopotamus, okay. Yesterday, to one of my participants, it gives the name dinosaur. He was very angry about this. Okay. So, okay. So how to use the Jamboard? You can write, it's very difficult. You can cancel, but the instrument we use are this one, that is the post-it. You could write here. You could change the color. Then you save, but you have to do like this, okay? then if you want to eliminate, on the dots, you find how to eliminate. You could write the text, for example, if you want to give, we can say, for example, we can try to choose a town and give some, for example, let's choose, okay. Okay. I choose Paris. For me, Paris is 1% feminine. 1%, sorry. It's absolutely a feminine town. What about you? Okay. This sound reminds me to make something colloquial with you, discursive. Oh, someone is reading something. Okay. Oh, wow, you're great. I never use the pen because I'm terrible with it. Okay, so you think it's 2. Okay, I'll agree with you. Okay, it's 2. Oh, but someone else said, no, about me it's 4 masculine. Okay. Please try to say what you think about this. For example, for me, wow, but you're very good at. Okay. Very romantic for someone else, sophisticated. Okay. Romantic, okay. What? Okay. I don't know if someone. Oh. 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 Finally, someone who is use this like me. Okay. Oh. I thank you very much for your cooperation. Of course, if we do this on presence, it would be, of course, different. Or if we do this with groups, okay, and every group has its own map, and then we come back with 4 maps or 5. And for each group, someone says, for us, this is the map, and we can talk about this. But it's not so interesting as a learning method instead of a working method. So, okay, thank you. Okay, so although we do not organize this so much, of course, Paris is on the left side. It's interesting to easily observe that for many of course, Paris is considered, oh, someone wrote in the chat something. Wait. No. Okay, no, only the name. Okay, okay. But for example, people always think Paris is a interesting. Okay, thank you. Is a vibrant town, interesting town. Okay, but although we are only few people, but you have to consider that someone think that is a stagnant one, and someone else a boring one. Of course, when we talk about Paris, our job here is of no interest for the Parisian municipality, okay? It could be interesting if they done it on a large scale and they do it. But when we are in a little village and we could have some meeting with people, maybe to break the ice at the beginning or at the second meeting, you could immediately feel the atmosphere in the place. If they are open, how do they arrive? Do they talk to each other? Are they happy to find themselves all together or not? It's very easy to catch these signals. So you could make the decision, okay, I'll start with this one. So maybe people talk together and say, no, I'm not of your opinion, but they give you some information. But of course, are you interested if your village is innocent or sinful? Maybe not at all. So what I would like you to help me is to build, and you can use the T, so the text put in here. Okay, sorry. When you create, you have to write immediately something. Very easy. Okay, no, do like this. New. Okay. Then you could also, with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, duplicate and transfer here. Okay. Hold. This requires much more thinking, I think. Old, yes, it's the same. Okay, new. I don't know if it's correct. Antique. Old in the sense of antique, with remains. Would you like to try to suggest some word in opposition? Think about your place. Of course, we could grab inspiration from the first. You see, you could move between them, okay? But it would be much more interesting if you find something new, available, very interesting. But the opposite, you know, you suggest. Unavailable. My English teacher always says me that I complicated my life with the English. It's simple, she said to me. It's simple. Okay. You're better than me. Okay. green, great, attractive. Concrete, okay. Okay, of course, picturesque. Okay, this is very interesting because picturesque, you never said picturesque about a big city. You could say maybe a little place could be picturesque. I don't know really what is the opposite of picturesque. You know? Enigmatic. Enigmatic, very interesting. So let's try, take your time to do this. This Jamboard is at all your disposal all along the course. So if you had some ideas tomorrow, the day after, please go and write about this. I'm so positive about this that I duplicate this. Okay. Okay. Okay, in the third, you can cancel. I'll do it. Open lively. Okay. So we can continue this during our course. Lifeless. Interesting. A little moment of sadness because many of our villages were abandoned or lifeless. But I don't know if it's the same at the moment in your country. We already said that there is a return to the village, but also in Italy, the main media talks about this. And as you know, people listen to the media could consider to do the same. Okay, so I stop at the moment artificially. You're good at opposites, better than me. I'll repeat this. Okay, so it's wonderful. Calming, intense. It's very interesting, this opposite, because maybe I use calm and intense, but I'm really interested in calming because the correct opposite could be that makes me stress. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And the opposite of enigmatic, open, transparent. Could be? Okay. For your job. I don't know, boring. Okay. So we ended this. Okay. straightforward. Okay, perfect. Use this. So if you want, in the next days, you could use also this one, if you want. And if you have any question about this, if this helps you make some reflection on the places you're going to work with, we can talk together about, and could be interesting. But it could be quite a role play of what you're going to do in the meeting on the place. So I'll go back. Okay. So here we are. This is the argument. But what I think is really interesting is that landscape could be considered as a mix. So these are my slides, but I know that some of the content you already heard about it. So I go a little faster in this part, okay? If you have any question, ask. So when we say a mix, I already said a core of services and products, but the view should be sustainability, biodiversity, climate change, and valorization of areas and communities. And this is the second part that talk about culture, tradition, and services offered. So, but to stay on the first. So, climate crisis, we need intervention. We had the problem that our governments hasn't been, the international institution have not been up to the task. We now facing the problem. Unavoidable ecological conversion. But to go in deeper, this process needs a strong popular participation, because we need energy from local sources. We had to promote ecological agriculture and farming for sustainable diet. We had to reduce drastically mobility, motorization, private mobility, and waste. Okay, a lot of things to do, and we need to take care of the hydrogeological systems. What about the culture and the tradition of the area? What is very interesting for me about this is that helps you to considerate always, to considerate what the roots of the place are. And the root of the place have an immediate effect on the area. Also, the roots of the place are a part of the creation of an itinerary. We will see it in the next meeting, because when you think about the itineraries, the new itineraries lies on the old routes we have, and the old routes are part of the territory roots. Okay, roots as the roots of a tree. So, what is the European Landscape Convention? It's the first international agreement on landscape devoted to the protection, management, and planning of all landscapes across Europe. what's interesting is that in October in Strasbourg, they invited to integrate the landscape, the concept of landscape, into the planning policies and in cultural, environmental, agricultural, social, and economic policies, as well as in any other policies with possible direct or indirect impact on landscape. They also have a method to understand and map the landscape. One, for example, is called historic landscape characterization, because map the landscape that we see today in reference to its historical development. Okay. So the landscape value as potential attraction of an area. Okay. We say it's central to our idea to attract people, to attract tourists, but also to create a wonderful place to live in it. I think this has been told you 25 times, okay? But when we had to do something practical, we have to generate ideas to work on the qualitative value of the landscape. What elements we had to consider? Have we some instruments to do this? So I'll take you back to the Jamboard. I hope so. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, I had to stop the sharing. Okay, here we are to take you back there. Okay. Here we are. Are you seeing the Jamboard? Yes, you're looking at the Jamboard. Okay, okay. So after all these slides, after all we talked together during this day, which are the landscape elements? There are two main elements. We said that the landscape, I can't give you the slide, but we talk about the result of the interaction between two elements. One that I call simply the place. And the second one, the people. So, which are the elements of a place that we consider? I start with place because I think it would be quite simpler to identify them. I don't know if you need some more explanation, but for example, could be the natural elements like river, lake, and so on. what kind of other elements you find in the place or in the people, if it's easier for you. Tradition, okay. Perfect. Astronomy, gastronomy. I read astronomy. Okay. Lowland Hills, right? So it's a natural element, okay? Buildings, yes. Maybe we could buildings, for example, they are an interaction between. Okay, perfect. Church. Historical site, it disappeared, but it was a good idea. Narrative tradition. Maybe narrative tradition, I would put it on the people side, under the people side. What do you think? No. Infrastructure, correct. You're doing a great job. Okay. Prejudice. Oh, great. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think we could also, archaeological excavation, we could say also digs, because there's a new film, The Dig, about archaeological excavation. So I learned this new word. Okay, I can't see which is the writing. Oh no, no, sorry. Okay, meats, great. Meats. There is a famous Italian books that is called, the title is Why People Goes on Vacation, and it also make reference only to myths about this. What kind of myths of meat inspires you when you're going on vacation? Okay. So caves, climate, perfect. Mm-hmm. Castle. Very good. Folk legends, code of conduct, religions, diligence, look at the chat. Daniela. Okay. Advance. Well. Okay. So, a lot of suggestion. But everything is interesting. Any notation is good to start to talk about it. But I have a question. Is this the right way to put them down? So, okay, I ask you to put them down like this, of course. But imagine that tomorrow, and sorry, Stefania maybe asked me something. Stefania is the name. No, Valeria, sorry, Valeria. And although at the moment we are not supposed to have a meeting with anyone because of COVID, and we'll talk about this. She asked this in the chat. And that's why I wrote digital divide. But if you are going to organize a meeting or maybe a virtual meeting, and this could be difficult for you to do the job. But that's also why I started my talk with you with the VUCA system, because I told myself I can talk to these future territorial mediators without underlying the difficulties, and more over the possibility to have a mindset that help us to rear over the difficulties. So if you're going to meet or to talk by telephone with the people, with a group of persons, is this the right way to look at the elements, or it's quite confusing what to start with? So, of course, you should use an instrument that helps you. You have had the SWOT analysis, but as regards the landscape element, maybe we will try to do a little job about the SWOT analysis at the end of the course, or maybe another day. But you have to organize all these contents, and you have to organize them much more in a new way of thinking. This is a classical textual context, divided, place from people, but people and place are not divided, okay? This was the easiest suggestion. Although we are in the hypertextual world, our mind, our brain always work by opposition, considering the textual way. So the landscape element, for example, you could consider them from the aesthetic, perceptual category, with the use of one sense. The most interesting, the most used is the sight. So, which is the form of your landscape? Which are the pattern? Which is the texture? Which are the colors? This is interesting because although these are the most immediate thing you insert, to learn the territory, you need a much deeper insight. Also because the emotional, the perceptual, the aesthetic elements are those that are more appealing in the communication. I hope I'm clear too. It was better if I started here with the natural one. Okay, so when you compile something like this, of course you say, okay, I forgot something. I don't know. For example, wine areas, maybe. If I use this kind of, okay, natural, sorry, because it's not a perfect instrument. So you could consider the landform, the air and the climate, the soils, and flora and fauna. So of course, if we here wrote, okay, flora and fauna, which are the elements? Okay. For example, plants, for example, flowers. It helps you, reminds all the specification, all the elements. The other sense, the most neglected, touch and feel, smells, which is the perfume of the place. Sounds, so neglected. Nobody think about this. Which are the sounds? Bells of the church, bells of animals. Okay. Others from the people's sides, cultural and social, the enclosure, the settlements, the land use, and the perceptual aesthetic of the people, preferences, association, memories. You could say, yes, but it's quite the same. It's difficult to have a clear vision. But if you transform all these elements in these categories, it's sure that you'll join other elements, perfume, smell, and so on. And the surprise. And the instruments, the practical instruments that could help you is this one. You can read this, okay? This has been made in Ireland, from Irish. And I like this so much. First of all, because we are dealing with a much more mental map attitude, new one, like the business design canvas, okay? Then because it really helps to have a vision of the territory, of the landscape, okay? The part, for example, that of course it's very intriguing. Yeah, someone, no? Someone say something, no? Okay. If you have question, of course, they are welcome. And so memories, association, preferences, what regards people. And you could move a step forward. So not only looking at the community characteristics, okay, but also trying to build a profile of what the person, the tourist, the person we are interested in, our buyer persona, what this person think about the place. So the map we saw before, it's in the association, because I do, maybe you have some interesting association in Italy, for example, but you have a lot of examples. When in a place it happens something sad or awful, a child kidnap, for example, tourist immediately stops. For example, we had a place, a little small village on the mountains where there was a child killed by his mother, and tourism immediately stopped because it was a small village and tourists were families, most of all. After 4 years, the place returned to the normality, okay, to the normal, the new normal. But they made a lot of efforts to cancel this kind of association. But this is a visible association. Many times, and it would be good if you could make some examples, so just to start a discussion within us. Sometimes these associations are, how do you say, are not manifest, not openly visible. They are connected to prejudice. Prejudice, someone wrote this. Prejudice could be inside the community. It's a very interesting word. It could be, could exist inside the community. For example, in the hospitable community, if you read the presentation made from Simone, one of the problems is the community many times didn't believe that their place can be of any interest to anyone. Or, and this is the second case, they believe that the place could be interesting for wrong reason. For a little beautiful church that maybe the tourists have seen churches like this everywhere in the place, but maybe in this place there is a particular gastronomy that they do not consider. And I told you a story about this before I go, or tomorrow. And this is instead the most interesting for the tourist. So prejudice, it's important not only with the community, but also with the tourist. I return there, okay. So this could be a way to organize your knowledge of the place, and much more to ask you questions about the place. To not only, yes, to ask questions, to understand which kind of question you have to give, to ask. Yes, it's easy. The English is easy. You have to ask to the people. Okay, so when in the chat, Valeria says, Daniela, how we will carry this out, a workshop with the villagers, if we can, she said we can, because the hope is great in Valeria, but she would like to say, if we can't have a meeting, prohibited socializing due to the COVID. Yes. But you have, of course, to try to have a positive attitude. Of course, we need to have a positive attitude. Then to consider the VUCA system, the fact that you need vision, you need clarity. And I have so many ideas in my mind. So sorry if I'm not so punctual in the answer. Then, of course, I could tell you some technical, okay, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to enter in contact with you. I don't know if it does function, but I try to do my best not to be only a slide mover, you know. That's good if we are in the beginning part, but it's very important to try to talk with you about the practical part, what you could do there. I know very well that it's not an easy job you're going to do. That's why I started with the VUCA. But also, you have to build yourself a resilient attitude. I do not use anymore the resilient word, because I use the anti-fragile word. During these days we stay together, maybe I think you could understand that I'm very passionate about tourism, very, very passionate about responsible tourism, about sustainable tourism, about communication between persons. And I'm also very passionate about books. So I read this book many years ago, but I didn't understand it so well. I read it in English. And so I don't know if it happens to you. When I read something in a language that is not my own, it's different the way I understand the meaning, you know. This is a book, the name is Anti-Fragile, and how to prosper in difficulties, in the chaos, I think it's. I didn't think I would talk about this, but when you say that something is when you say that something is resilient, although now there are many different definitions, you talk about something that could resist, flexible to the big crisis, to the big change, okay? Taleb, that is the writer, then I'll give you bibliography if you're interested, of course. Taleb wrote, but the real contrary, the real opposite of fragile is not robust or, excuse me, the real contrary of hard, robust is not fragile. It's anti-fragile, because if you use resilient, you mean that after the crisis, you return the same. And this is what many people hope. If you are anti-fragile, you become stronger with the change, with the risk, with the difficulties, with the black swan. This author is a Lebanese Mediterranean one, and is very proud about this. And he became world famous with the concept of black swan, something incredible, unpredictable, that you could never imagine it would happen, that happens. You wrote this book many years ago, before the big crack of American banks. So the anti-fragile attitude is to take force from the crisis. So we could, now I read your question even. I hope that during this our meetings we will build many ideas about how to stay on the territory. But one thing I could tell you, Valeria, is that you are not the only one in this situation. In the village, they are in this situation. So maybe it could be, how in Latino say, captatio benevolenza. Help me, Simone. So please, Simone, help me. So when you arrive there, maybe, for example, tell me, you come from this place, you live near the place. Valeria, if you write in the chat, or see if you want to talk slowly, or write in the chat. So if you're not from the area, so you're a stranger, maybe you can find a more disposable people, because they could feel empathy with you, and you should make them feel empathize with you. I think this could be a real anti-fragile attitude. Of course, there are the technical problems, what you could do, wrote to them, virtual meeting. That's why you remind me to write digital divides. In Italy, in villages, now everyone has a phone, everyone is very digital, not prepared, but a digital user. Of course, there could be some, I think that, what do you think, Simone? I think that all the villages in Italy have connection with the internet. Oh, maybe it's time to make the pause, to make a little stop. But I think you could succeed because when we come back, I told you my story I wrote about my first personal experience as a territorial mediator. It's a little essay I wrote for you. So wait a minute, Ivan. How did the villagers realize they were concentrating on the wrong attraction, as in the example of the church? Oh, it's a very diplomatic issue, a real one. Okay, how do they realize? For example, I give you an example. So they all think in this village, they all think that the house of this writer that nobody knows was the center, could be the center of the itineraries of the routes, okay? And what you could say, no, you can't say no, because it's important for them, okay? So, but you, in this case, you find another interesting place, a place with a view. For example, places with a view are often not considered from the inhabitants of a village because they are their daily view. So we create an itinerary with the land view that included the house of the writer, but in the house of the writer, people could taste the gastronomy product I told before. I don't know if I give you a practical example. Of course, it's a matter of creativity. Then you can't do this. For example, I say what you shouldn't do. Telling to people, and I heard this many times, no, this doesn't function because tourists then don't like this. If you say something like this, you are going to push the idea that the tourist is somewhere else. And that's really wrong. The best thing is to give them a more welcoming attitude, and also, how could I say, a teaching attitude. It's very interesting that you help tourists to know what you have in the place, okay? It was a good answer, partial, of course. Okay. I hope so. We could say something more about this. I hope we could use this. You could use this word to ask me for some experiences, some tales, Daniela tales, and case histories, of course. Always balance the technical aspects, how to create the itinerary, and the convivial aspect, the communicative aspects. And if they think they got the idea, let them believe they got the idea. You're not the one who giving them the idea. And so 10 minutes until 11:30 of pause, okay? Thank you very much for your cooperation and attention at the moment. Thank you. See you after 10 minutes. Okay, here we are. I think you can see the Jamboard, only to let you see that in the next two slides of the Jamboard, I try to let you read better, okay? To read better the components, okay? But it's easy for you to read them. I let this one more minutes, but you can go to the Jamboard and visit also if I'm not in the sharing of my screen. Okay. So, how you see me? Wow, thank you, Yannis. Wrote me a private message telling me he's been studying responsible tourism management. So I'm happy to know that you're interested in responsible tourism. I think responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, should contaminate the mainstream so much that maybe we needn't to say responsible or sustainable, but talking about tourism, it should be that the tourism is all responsible, all sustainable, but I'm an idealist, I know. But you see, when I talk about the anti-fragile, this wrong situation changed so much things. And so we have to face them. But you see, for example, I imagine every one of you has its own personal story. Probably if this meeting wouldn't be online, I couldn't participate, for example, coming to your places. It could be difficult for me. And so from my point of view, I'm happy that I could talk with you and understand, help you in doing something on the territories. So maybe someone is still having his coffee, I don't know, but I would like to read or to tell you this story, and I dedicated this to Valeria, and I hope that the correct answer to her question is that we all together discuss this and try to understand what we can do. I think that in the meeting we have, the bilateral meeting, we are trying to have we offer to have this meeting to understand what we could do in the module 5 to give you any kind of practical suggestion. And I think that we could all together think about this. Hopefully, we hope that we could be in presence doing the job. But also, if we are in presence, we need to work on this kind of instruments. And I think that if you are prepared, if a person prepares herself, himself, you could pass your passion, your enthusiasm, your ideas also through the monitor or without this. So we talk more technically, and we have no case histories. We are going to build the case history of the territorial. Yes, I know that's difficult for you. I saw Mariana's face. Yes, you said yes. Unfortunately, yes. Yes. But okay, we are pioneers. Wow. So I told you I read this story dedicated to Valeria. It was at the end of the 90s when I found a job, my first job as a territorial mediator. I was thrilled. First, because I had to spend 10 days in one of my favorite Italian regions, working for a, then, second, working for a famous Italian tourist marketing studio, one of the best. It was thrilling for me. I can't wait to start. Okay, I know very well the region. That's why they asked me, but I do not know the province and never been in the villages. There were 8 villages in this project that was funded from the European. It was a Leader 2 project. Okay, so the idea was that I had to collect data from these villages to promote tourism in the internal area. I'm sorry to say, this, I'm going to tell you because so you could understand how old I am, because there was no Wikipedia. Yes, there was internet, but in the World Wide Web, if you do not have the Wi-Fi and you do not have, you're in a village, it was quite like not having the internet and no internet on the phone, only data from books, from municipalities, and you know what does it means because you collect the data for the plan, yes, and not so easy. And of course, from local actors. It was a not 30 degrees in the shade summer, very hot. Everyone was working. I had only few connections in the area, and it was very hard work me to involve people. I couldn't. It was very, very difficult. And there was not so much time. I was very worried. Moreover, I'm a curious person, you're getting to know me. Everybody told me I had this curious information about a typical food. Everybody knows this. It was a fruit, but I couldn't find it. This fruit was used to make some sweets. And apparently, this fruit was you could find only in this region, in these villages, and nowhere else in the world. So, unique selling proposition. I was fresh from my marketing studies. So I asked everyone, everywhere, everybody knows the fruit, but nobody could tell me where to find or to taste it. After the first week, I became mad because I was so irritated because I couldn't be able to find this unique food. Obviously, I was doing my job, but everywhere I go, every person I encounter, I ask, do you know Pompeia? Could you tell me where I could find it? And the answer was always, no. Yes, it's our fruit, but I don't know where you can find it. So at the end of the week, quite deluded and very tired, I decided to go to an awful restaurant in front of my flat. And you imagine what I could find in menu, what I find in the menu, the tart with the Pompeia. So I was enthusiastic about this. And I don't know what, but I come to visit all the person I met, telling, I found it in the restaurant, you know, I found it. And it happens the unexpected. In 3 days, I collect all the information because something happened. All the people was empathic with me. It's a real true story. And told me, they understand, oh, this girl from the north comes here and she tries to do her job. And she's so happy to find this fruit. And it was quite deluding for taste. Really, it was not so a big food, okay? And so they helped me a lot. In 3 days, I made all the job. They talked about me to their friend. The community became cohesive with me and gives the information. So, in conclusion, the story is mine, but it's universal. It could be yours, because it shows a clear change from the unexpected. I didn't know, but this could be an anti-fragile attitude. Remember this story, because I do not tell this only to say something about myself, to say how proud I was about myself, but because it used a typical scheme, storytelling scheme. So we could go back to this together in the next, when we talk next about this. It's only a story, but when you go on the territories, stories are what the world is made of. So also your diary, your notes on the diary when you arrive there are really precious. Don't forget to use them. Some more questions? Okay. I hope that we could work together about this. I saw that although we didn't make groups, but Simone said we could do groups in the next, in our next meeting. I try to transform what you said in some job we could do together, because of course, as I said, we have no case history about going on the territory in this situation, and the ideas could not arrive, the ideas should arrive bottom up, from your ideas, from our common reflection about the problem of the COVID, of course, about how to be on the territory by as an incredible experience. I have my own experience. I would like to give you to you. So, if there are questions, I'm happy. Although we go back to the slides. Okay. There is something I think should be. Wait a minute. I look. Okay. So to have an idea of our schedule time. Okay. So, yes, this is another slide that takes in consideration the pandemic. Why? Because last week, Maurizio Cappelli told you something about this, the second sentence, because since the first days of these emergencies, there has been a return to birthplaces. Okay, we already, I also already said this. Yes, numbers are still small to speak of a reversal, but something is happening. So we had to think about what kind of rebirth lies ahead for villages. And I think that this project is a real innovative one, could help us to really change the attitude. And at this moment, it's not only innovative, but when you, in the world of the birds, you say it's a bull moment, okay? It's a bull moment to return or to consider the small villages, as Maurizio told you before. So, this is the return and remain. So consider people who returns and become a new resident. This will start a new kind of community. We say that the community should be connected, and we always use the word circle, but should be an open circle. So it's very important to understand the attitude to hospitality of the village. In a very simple way, if in a village there is something that's not from the village, ask him, ask her, how do you feel in the village? Are you a real part of the community? It was very interesting last week what Maurizio said in answering to one of your precious questions, how to involve the community. And one of his answers, he said, there are two kinds of people, and the ones you need to rely on are the constructive ones. So find the constructive ones, understand what through their eyes, what kind of attitude has the community. And to understand this attitude, for example, understand which is the behavior of people towards okay, I remember this old book, aliens, because in English, aliens, it means something who a forestier, something who comes from another place, okay? When we had to build the landscape qualitative value, not only for residents, but for tourists. In Bai, help me if I say something wrong, they call them temporary resident. And this is a very good, it was a very, very good, a great idea. You see, and I hope that also Ioannis is still with us, because when you learn responsible tourism and talk with people of responsible tourism, the attitude is to distinguish, to separate the tourist from the voyagers. This is a long it has roots in history, this attitude. So many times the word tourist is used as a synonymous for mass tourist. And also in the Italian Responsible Association, there is this attitude. But I think that anybody could have his view about this. For me, there are only tourists. I don't do this kind of distinction. When I say that tourists are temporary residents, this is something that I like it very much because it adds something more, okay? And it adds something that the tourists want, the experience, being part of something, not feeling separate, okay? If someone would like, but I had to find the original title. There's a book that the title is The Stupid on Trip. But instead of the title, it tells the story of the vision of the tourist from the Partenone, for example, from the Partenone visits, from the Grand Tour visits. And it influenced me much in this way, okay? So, a yellow slide because we are talking first about tourism. So, the design of a tourism enjoyment model different from the current one. When I wrote this slide, this kind of tourism is organized on the widespread territorial heritage, not exclusively polarized on the great cities of art. Yesterday, I found this news that I became mad at. I like it a lot, about the Uffizi Galleria in Florence. It is one of the most famous Galleria museum in the world. And Florence, you know, is a town characterized by over-tourism. Okay. So this is a real example of something that arrives when you encounter an unexpected, a black swan. I would like to use this metaphor, but something unpredictable like the COVID. So the Uffizi in Florence is always full of people queuing with them, not in this moment, of course. So Dale, the director, told to the CNN their project. He, as you see in the slide, he declares, he says, art can survive on big galleries alone. And Elke Schmitz is the name, because he's pursuing a plan for this museum to send the works to smaller museum in smaller town, we can say villages, yes, quite touristic, but not so well known, that are in the surrounding region of Tuscany, that is the region of Florence, okay, to create jobs, to draw attention to lesser known areas. And of course, to relieve a potential tourist crunch when people goes to the Museum Uffizi once the travel resumes. You can see my face. I was so enthusiastic about this, so enthusiastic. And very happy to find this information. And now the news it was maybe in 3 months ago, I think, but now it was on the Guardian, on Art News that our newspapers I read. So what does it mean? First of all, the name of the project is very related to Borghi Autentici, because it is Uffizi diffusi, that is scattered Uffizi. So it is connected to the idea of the scattered hotel by Dallara, and also one of the most interesting elements of the hospitable community. And this project will include 60 sites. And also, I told this story not only because I'm enthusiastic, but because could be an inspiration for you, maybe, okay? It's not a simple project, of course, but its science, when I wrote design, the first line, design of a tourism enjoyment model different from the current one, and organized, not exclusively polarized on the great cities of art. But I know that the great cities of art are always the great cities of art. If I come to Italy, I'm supposed to visit what's in the geography of tourism we call public symbols. We use it was a Chinese tourism studio scientist, I can say geographer, excuse me, a tourist geographer that underlined this difference. When you are in a town, it says a big town, there are public symbols, okay? Public symbols, the Tour Eiffel, of course, for Paris, or the Colosseum for Rome. But many times your art remains with the attention places. That are little places that evoke affection. That's the meaning. So when I read this news, I said, something is really changing, because this is, first of all, a solution, a possible solution to over-tourism. Then the possibility for little places to have tourists, a different kind of tourist. Of course, you should act like a DMO, a destination management organization, and taking in consideration all the positive aspects and the possible negative effects. But it could be an interesting idea. Then this is one, but also I was forgetting. For example, it's not only that I give to the places some work of arts, but there is a reason why I give to this place this work of arts, because there is a connection. For example, one of the ideas is to send to the Elba Island, where Napoleone stays, some of the working arts representing Napoleone. So Napoleone-related works being installed in the Forte Falcone on the island, where he was briefly exiled. So this could be an interesting signal, according to me. Then they also launched a cooking show. Before the COVID, you couldn't imagine an important gallery launching a cooking show, because it was a particular cooking show because they asked world famous Tuscan chefs to cook based on the work in the collection. So just to give you one possible idea. Then, what is important about the relation with tourists and the qualitative value of the place is to produce local development, but not with an external capital flows. Money should remain there in the village. That's one other important reason, because you need to understand if there is the possibility to create cooperative action to involve youth people in projects to create little itineraries, for example. Then, very important, not to produce massive negative effects toward residents. There are two examples, okay? The real estate market price is rising. We saw this with the Airbnb creation that has a negative effect on price of the houses, almost on big cities, because in the center of Barcelona, in the center of Paris, in the center of Venice, the person who rent flats find more convenient to rent them with Airbnb than to a person who wants to live there. And also the creation, of course, the scarcity of personal services, but also the creation of real enclosures for tourist use. The scattered hotel, the scattered services are means to give the tourists the taste of the place, the taste of the territory, and the taste of the people, the community. Okay, so, some questions? Perfect. In our villages, even the number of tourist overnight stays in 2020 remain almost the same as in 2009. Despite the closed border, domestic tourists return to the countryside. Yes, I agree, absolutely. After with my little association, really, we were frightened about, because we do not know what should be. We have it's a difficult job, but someone has to do it, they say, okay. Our difficulties is that we rent a place in a village. We do not have a place of our own. So we had to pay before the rent. And in 2020, we do not know if people would come. But people came. So we, as you said, the same number of people we had before. And I ask you if this happened in your village too. People who comes to us had a completely different attitude. First of all, they were, we are all together very grateful to life, to the possibility to stay together, to have, I call many times our association, what we do, fluctuating community, because our associates, we do not call them clients, comes from any part of Italy and become friends. So it's the summer, it's an occasion for them to find together and build their community. Then in the rest of the season, they visit each other. We really create a connection. And last year, it was incredible. I have many friends and many persons who work in ISTO that work in the international tourism. And they were in big trouble. But the little association who works on the territory in the village find a new way to survive, I think. Do you agree? Yeah. Okay, I don't know if there's someone else. Okay. So I think it's interesting very much to reflect about this, the different attitude of people, because, and that's why the concept of hospitality, the ability to welcome people and to make feel at home, it's very important, because now we have this occasion to have much more people in the villages and a different kind of person, the ones who probably before went to big cities or go on international travel. So we have the occasion to let them see what is this kind of tourism. And it's very important not to fail, because the vaca fail, when you have a vaca fail, you don't go back. If the experience, it was not successful, you don't want to repeat it. Okay. Oh, this was the Art News article. Okay. So there are many concepts about the enhancement of local areas. I like very much the place consciousness, to be place consciousness. You find this on the Bai Hospital community. It makes you smile, because it's a good idea not to call brand identity, but to call the genius loci, the genius of the place. So switching from our tradition to a concept of safeguard from the past to the future. So the consciousness of people as a matrix of new movements. these words in practical are to let people understand what is beautiful in a place. And also, as we discussed a little before, understand that what is beautiful for them could be beautiful also for others if enclosed in a core products, in a core services. Okay, so I had this previous slides, but you already talked about this, about the forms and productive institutes, the territorial self-organization in the territory, and the community experience typologies. These are only different way to say. For example, bottom-up organization. This is try to push the cooperative in the place, creating closer contact between inhabitants, producer, artisan, researcher. It was too fast. Tell me if you're okay. Maybe I let this one moment more. Okay. So bottom up, help them to. Okay. Local development. So, for example, the slow food. Food, people is mad about food nowadays. So there is a lively new local tertiary company advancing. When I told you about the fruit, 10 years after the fruit I had difficulty to discover, now there are a young cooperatives that made up an agro company, and this food is well known in all the places. If you go on internet, I done this last week, it's full of information about this. Okay, so production of the local community. What kind of enterprises, excuse me, what kind of enterprises? Slow food, but also development of the production and of the local community. The growth of the first aim to the well-being of the second. What kind of enterprises? For example, we in Italy, we call them GAS, solidarity purchasing groups, solidarity economic networks, organic cooperatives. You already talk about this. You made also questions to Maurizio and Marina, the use of buildings. So what the belief that little town can be a new idea of the centrality of what we call the less worlds. So develop the role of small villages to highlight a network of communities. So that's what Borghi Autentici creates. Not only common goods, there is you could find about this many information with Alberto Magnaghi, that is the Society of Territorialists. I give you the name in a bibliography, okay? This is the territory as a common good. I didn't found the books translated in English, but on the Territorialist Society, you'll find many articles in English. Okay. So many typologies of community experiences. This is only a reminder because I think that to talk before with Bai about this was much more interesting, okay? But only to remind you how many things can be done: eco museum, local markets, uncultivated lands reactivated, and so on. So here we are, the landscape as a mix, and the services offered. Wait, okay. I think maybe next time, if you are interested, we could try to make a group work, but a very simple one, trying to transfer your SWOT information in a little SWOT operating tool. That's my idea. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Oh, a practical tip before the end. Okay. So this is a very easy one. I think many of you knows this, but I think it could be interesting. This is a poem of Rudyard Kipling, a very old one, and it has become these verses has become the essential starter kit for a writer, like Snoopy that you see in the photo. No, it was a dark night. He says always it was a terrible dark night. So he says, I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. So probably you have noticed that I used this question at the beginning of my presentation. It's a very simple. When you're a journalist and you have to write something, you write, yes, but before ending, you had to control. This is an old system, but it's the start, okay, the start. Then I would try to give you some more modern instruments to create a story of the territory that I'm really passionate about writing. But keep in mind this one, a practical tips. So these are the final slides. Yes, because I can't talk about places without talking about the local community, but you already have much information about. You need to practice, okay? But okay, community were marginalized, okay, by the industrial era, because the vision was competitiveness and economic value. That's why today we are witnessing the rebirth of a strong need for community. These, even if often manifests itself as a defensive closure to the world, communities of resentment, they can allude to new paths of civilization, provided that the principle of individual freedom and participatory community democracy are safeguarded. Okay, you already know this. What, I don't know if I wrote in this slide, okay, but I told you. There could be new inhabitants that are trying to build new ways of inhabiting the earth, as well as reopening new vital relationship with nature and building other ways of being together. I already told you the community should be an open circle. What I would say in conclusion of our day together. Don't try not to have a too much idealistic vision of the community. Because in many new books, the word community is often substituted by inhabitants, because you go there and you could find inhabitants. Maybe the community needs really your help to reconstruct, to construct itself. One day, Maurizio Capelli called me and said to me, "Please, Daniela." "Yes, Maurizio," because it's a particular one. I said, "Yes, what you need? What you need? You have to go there and tell them something about empathy." And I said, "Well, but it's a hospitable community. You already done all the job." "Yes, but they can't feel like a community in the sense I intended." Because, for example, we talk just a little, we will go in deeper about accommodation. My hotel is in competition with yours. I don't want to talk with you. We have an event each year that divided the village into parts. The hills part and the near the river part. So this kind of happy competition remains all along the years. I could testify this, okay, in many places. So although you'll find there the community, as in the management of big firms, you have to consider the underlying communication. So I don't know in which occasion someone asked me, but if may I choose to help as a tutor to help the community, the owner of an hotel? I said, yes, maybe you can, but it's a delicate issue because maybe the others don't want that this one tell them what to do. So briefly, understand at which point of good relation is the community, and help them to build it, to recreate the sense of community. Questions? I think okay, 4 minutes. Have you some question? Oh. Okay. No? I kill you. You're tired? Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the last slide. Okay. Questions are the answer. So please, another practical tip, a golden rule inside the course, inside our work together. If you have questions, maybe also at the beginning, and Simone, that's a very big help, could maybe collect them, okay? So it's a good way also to to tell you what you mostly needed or interested in. I think we can close. Do you agree? Oof. Okay. Simone? Chat. Someone says something. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you. It's nice to have some direct observation, and also reminds me of the word lecture, because I haven't got always synonymous of what I'm doing here. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. If it was interesting for you, really help me to I'm not afraid not to give you an answer because I do not know something or I yet to think about it. So please ask. It's really a pleasure for me. So let's close. 2 minutes earlier.
Okay, so thank you very much for staying. Thank you very much, Daniela, for the awesome speech and lecture. And also thank you to all the mediators for listening and staying with us until the end. Yes, and so next Friday. On next Friday, we will have the second sub module of module number 3. Daniela will be leading the session also on Friday. Today I'll collect the slides and presentation. I will create the shared folder for today's session so that you can have access to the materials. And so thanks a lot. Good lunch.
Thank you. Good lunch to everyone.
And see you on Friday.
On Friday. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Daniela, restiamo un attimo allora?
Sì, certo.
Sì, mentre parlavi ti ho mandato un paio di mail, ma dove ti chiedevo di inserire il logo del progetto nelle slide, ma poi sì, mi era passato via che ce l'avevi già messo. Allora.
Ah sì, l'ho messo. L'avevo messo, sì.
Te ne ho mandato
l'avevo messo più grande, ma
No, va benissimo così nell'angolo. Te ne ho mandata poi una seconda dove ti chiedo solo se magari nella copertina, diciamo, delle slide puoi inserire un'immaginina, che è un'immaginina che avevo creato io, sempre con il logo di progetto e il nome qua del deliverable, questo qui del training, così.
Certo, ma su tutte, sì?
No, solo nella prima. Cioè solo
nella copertina, ok.
Copertina.
Ma nella copertina di tutti i moduli, ok?
Esatto.
Solo per essere...
Esatto.
Ok, va benissimo. Sì, no. Guarda, ma perché poi ho trovato quello dalle tue e l'ho copiato, no? Ma volevo dirti, ma per caso c'è perché a volte richiedono di avere proprio il logo in alto a destra e queste cose qua, insomma, no. Per fortuna no.
Allora, qui...
insomma, abbastanza interattivi, dai.
Sì, no, poi guarda, hai fatto benissimo quella cosa lì della board, così, perché anche in un altro progetto che stiamo facendo sempre come Borghi Autentici, su un altro interreg dove avevamo anche lì, non erano delle formazioni, erano più dei laboratori, diciamo, partecipati, così, che abbiamo dovuto convertire tutti online e lì abbiamo usato... come si chiama, appunto Miro, e lì abbiamo visto che almeno la gente lavora così, perché sennò appunto solo frontale dopo un po'
No, ma che sai cosa? Al di là del fatto che, cioè io ormai veramente, per me questa cosa è stata un po' una disperazione, perché io sono diventata veramente molto interattiva e non potrò più esserlo così comunque neanche in aula, perché io ero abituata a spostare le persone, a creare gruppi, a creare